Now, time for Harade. Only 2 days ago, Prime Minister Necker was suddenly dismissed by the king. It was a decision that did not sit well with most. Today, the members of the National Assembly publicly called for the creation of a bourgeois militia? They want their own army. That wasn't disturbing enough. It's well known at this point that this militia would have no shortage of volunteers. While there aren't many fears of a large-scale desertion within the military, there are still thousands of angry commoners. It's quite easy to throw up a barricade in the streets and start trouble. Then again, a mob of angry people doesn't make an army. While Paris contains more than enough sickles, kitchen knives, and hammers, an uprising would need rifles and cannons to succeed. They're in short supply. The militia could overwhelm and rob the occasional group of watchmen, or even a small military checkpoint, but the only large concentration of weaponry you can think of in Paris is the Bastile. Opposing Castle used to be a major prison, but now it's an armory that happens to hold a few, especially odious criminals in spare cells. Of course, that would be insane. Who would storm the Bastile? Nobody would storm a castle in the middle of Paris. Such an act would plunge the city into the kind of chaos no one could ever turn back from. The situation's dire, but surely everyone will be more reasonable than that. Right? Right? I feel like we're getting near the end of chapter 2. Today went well, she's happy. Let me sleep tomorrow. The Bastille was once the most infamous prison. Oh, god damn it. But it barely fills a prison anymore. Many still consider it a symbol of tyranny and repression. Today, a mob of over 1,000 commoners armed with pikes, kitchen implements, and stolen rifles attempted to storm the fortress. The Bastille contains hundreds of rifles, dozens of cannons, and ammunition for all of them. It's also extremely undermanned. The guards number barely more than 100. Camped on the other side of the River Seine are 5,000 troops in service of the crown, armed and ready for battle. Barely a mile away, if they decide to cross the river to relieve the defenders of the Bastille, nothing would be able to stop them. And that's exactly what they do. So, the Bastille never gets stormed in this timeline. At the commander's word, 5,000 troops form up and begin a swift march across the Pont Sully. They are grim and determined to restore order at any cost. It seems this enormous force crossing the bridge, many of the attacking militia scatter, and those who don't are quickly trapped in the square surrounding the fortress. This relief force strikes like a hammer, shattering the nascent citizen army against the looming walls of the Bastille. By the end of the day, bodies litter the streets, and revolutionaries have gained hundreds of martyrs to their cause. They have lost the first great battle, but it's too late for them to turn back now. The crown has gained a staggering amount of power. The revolution has lost power. Okay. Chapter 3. So the storming of the Bastille was the transition for chapter 3. The last 2 weeks have been complete chaos. No, I didn't get my date with Elizabeth. Roaring drone of chanted revolutionary slogans emerged with the orders to disperse, punctuated by screams and gunfire. In the past, you heard so much about glory, glorious uprisings from one group, and valor and loyalty unto death to the other. But hiding in your house the last few days, you've yet to see any of that. As you can imagine, this has put a rather serious damper on your social calendar. You can no longer receive random party invitations. While the violence stretches on into its own terrifying monotony, you can't help but feel that it's building towards something, like all this conflict has finally come to a head. As you consider leaving the house for the first time in weeks, you imagine the next few days would be a good time to get your affairs in order. To that point, you consider Pierre's humble newspaper and how his ability to peddle influence may have an effect on the outcome of things. Okay, so I did not get my date with Elizabeth. It was literally like 2 weeks were just gone, and there's no parties.